Morning, YouTube fans. Here we are again, another episode of Gardening with Vincenzo. And I wanted to speak a little bit more about these scions. I happen to have one in my hand here, and you can see I have some grafting tape, and I have my grafting tool, which came in a very nice case, and has a very expansive book that comes with it called Grafting Fruit Trees, and the author is Larry Southwick, and it explains quite a few different types of grafts and how to accomplish them. And I found the book very enlightening, especially for those folks that don't have a lot of experience with the grafting. So there's something right there for you to get involved with if you have an interest in the grafting. Now, I'm going to talk today a little bit about these scions and do a little bit of a demonstration. And whenever you're grafting, number one, you want to make sure that when you graft, the buds are pointing upwards. And these would be called scions. Now, if you had a rootstock, and we'll pretend that this is the rootstock, the rootstock determines how large the fruit tree is. The scion determines what type of fruit will be grown onto the rootstock after you've grafted it. Now, this comes with several different blades on it, but this is like a V-butt type grafting, which is probably the simplest. You're not going to cut your fingers off or cut your wrist off or whatever. But we're going to pretend that this is the rootstock. And so what we're going to do, and usually pretty low on the base of the rootstock, a Geneva, a lot of the Genevas, those are dwarf stalks. M27 is a dwarf stalk. I happen to have about 50 of them out there in pots, and I've collected scions and I intend to graft them. So here, we'll say that this is your rootstock, and we want to go pretty low on it, but we want to go, maybe above the first notch. So we're going to take I'm going to show you that. We're going to take our grafting tool. I'm going to let you look at that, where the blade is. And it's like a V. So you take the grafting tool and you lay it in there where the blade is going to hit. You just kind of eyeball it up, and you just squeeze it. All right, now that wasn't a great one because that was off center. Let me do another one. Although the grafting part was perfectly fine. All right, so we're going to go another one. I'm going to go right in the center. Let me throw my glasses on. I had the cataracts removed in my eyes. I can see, but I can't see clearly close up. But it's definitely improved my vision. I got to give a shout out to the Everett Urite group, because they were able to do me despite all the diabetic complications. All right, I have this one lined up pretty good. All right, now you can see there's a nice little V, and you can see that this is a good scion. It looks, it's not woody. It's just the simple single year's growth. All right, so on that end, we clip that off. On the other end, what we have, without me even have to cut another one, is what you'll do with this. So the outer layer, the growth layer, is called the cadmium. And you want to line those up. So in order to line those up, what you really have to do is you're dealing with diameters. So the diameter of the scion that you want to graft onto should be pretty close to the same size as the rootstock or the branch that's already been established that you're going to graft onto. The system works the same. And what you're going to do is you're just going to really just slide that in there like that. And you're going to put them back together. And I'm going to let you look at that one. You can hardly tell where that one was even cut. That's what makes this grafting tool so useful. And after you have this grafted and the cadmium layers, right there you can see the graft, the cadmium layers are matched up, you can use the grafting tape. Or you can be prepared and you can have some like Scotch tape. Scotch tape is clear and you can just take it on there. You don't want to leave any air spaces. So this is just to hold it in place while you put your thin piece of on. Now your grafting tape is another mechanism, and so you just start right at the graft and you kind of want to hold your roll tight, because you really do want this tight because you don't want water getting in there and rotting out your graft. So you're going to pull that tight, and you'll forgive me that I'm not pulling this real tight and I may be fumbling around a little bit, but this is the concept of it. And then you pull it tight, tear it off, and you can actually just tie the knot in it. Now that one's coming apart because I didn't actually do that one very well. And you'll forgive that. This is a single take here. So after you have the cadmium layers together, now you'd have, this would be a very sturdy point right here. So you can actually just pull it tight with your finger. You're kind of holding the pieces together like that. We'll get a nice graft out of this. And just take your tape, and what you could do, one of two ways here. You can take some tree wound if you're doing some of the other kind of grafts, or you could just take a common lighter. Now this is plastic. Just take it and seal it like that. You don't want to burn off the end. And if you look at that one, that's a pretty decent graft. If I was grafting that onto a tree, I'd be pretty happy with that. That's pretty stiff. The cadmiums were lined up perfect, the cadmium layers, and that's the thing you need to worry about, is the cadmium layer. You have to have the cadmium layer touching another cadmium layer, no matter what kind of the graft that you have. So this is a real simple demonstration. I was trying to demonstrate the scions. This is how you use the scions for grafting. You can note that the buds are in the proper position facing upward, and you'll know whether that takes because you'll get some green growth off of these buds. The time for grafting, usually in the early spring. You know, you want to kind of do this. You have to time this pretty well. You know, when you first start to see the buds just starting to form on your fruit tree, that's the time to do it. If you're going to graft later in the season, say you're going to do a branch graft, you're going to put a yellow delicious apple on a red delicious apple tree, or a honey crisp on a red delicious apple tree or whatever. You can still do it and have it work through the season. See if the graft takes. Start out small. Try to make a clean graft, and you can actually graft multiple kinds of apple right onto your fruit tree, especially a young one. If you have a young one, you use your tool, make your V cut, and line them up, do them up, and just see what happens. I love experimenting. You could take a young dwarf apple tree. I'm speaking of apples. You could do the same thing with pears or peaches, the same thing. And what you can do is put on different types of fruit. And a lot of times you see these multiple fruit trees that are dwarfed, that are sold by various companies. A lot of times what they do is just do a bud graft onto a stalk and they just bud graft from different ones. You just slice the cadmium layer and you graft a bud from another tree onto that and let it grow. It's a pretty slow process that way though. So, but a lot of people, you know, they order them, you know, $50 a pop, whatever, that type of thing. A little more pricey than I like to do. So anyway, this is the graft. This is the tool I find for the expense of this tool, with the booklet and the tree wound and the grafting tape. I find it a bargain myself. It speeds things up. I'm giving you a pretty slow demonstration right now, but you know, you can see how fast they are. Let me lay this one down, and I'm just going to take another one real fast, line it up, show you how quick this is. Make sure you're right in the middle when you do it. Give them a squeeze. There you go, you get the V. Here's the piece that you're going to graft on. Line up the cadmiums. Wham bam, there you go. Look at how clean that is. It's just a super easy way to do. You have cadmium touching all the way around. If you wrap it properly, you know, and seal it up, then keep the water off it, you'll be in good shape. You ought to give this a try. I would recommend it. I highly recommend this. I thought this was a great tool. Comes in a nice case. Grafting fruit trees. All the different grafting types are in there. And you'll be amazed at the information in this little booklet. I learned something, and I've been doing this for years and years and years. So there you go. That gives you a thumbs up. It has a nice little locking mechanism on it for storage. You know, you just lock the button. It just sits right in there. Zips up. You know, it's a nice case. You can carry it with you. It zippers. Good deal. You know, I'm promoting this for the ease of purpose, to make your life a little bit easier. Certainly beats, you know, making a mistake with that grafting knife and cutting your thumb or cutting your wrist, or, you know, that type of thing, using a razor blade. This to me was an ideal tool, and it makes terrific grafts. I mean, that is a clean graft right there. That's clean. I showed you how fast it is. Just clip, put them together, wrap them up, and you're good to go. All right, this is another video, Gardening with Vincenzo. Like and subscribe. I hope you have the chance to visit my GoDaddy website, gardeningwithvincenzo.com. Look for me on Facebook, Gardening with Vincenzo LLC. I post a lot of how-tos, a lot of good information. If you want to support the channel, there's a PayPal me right on the intro on my YouTube channel. If you just want to give me a comment, ask a question, I love engaging with other people. My purpose is to encourage other folks, like-minded folks, other garden gurus, those that are just beginning out. You know, if everybody decided that they were going to grow, I think that putting their focus into living positive, meaningful changes, and not only their lifestyle, excuse me, which will improve their health, but it'll improve the planet, it'll improve everybody's health. So again, Gardening with Vincenzo, grafting of the fruit trees. We can save this planet 1 yard at a time, beginning with your own. You are what you eat. Fresh is always best, and it doesn't get any fresher than fresh picked. Grow as a person. Plant a garden. Be safe out there. All right. Thanks again for spending some time.